Hi folks, in this video I'm going to talk you through the process of warping out a song in Ableton Live, specifically an a cappella, an unaccompanied vocal, to prepare it for remixing. And the song I'm going to be using is Starman by David Bowie. So I have here an empty Ableton Live session, and I have over here the song, which I purchased from iTunes, as well as the a cappella that I found somewhere on the internet. This a cappella was never officially released, but it is in wide circulation. So we're going to deal with the song first. I'm just going to drag it onto a track. So the purpose of warping out a song is to align it with the bars and beats grid in Ableton. And if you look at the audio file here, Ableton has done its best to warp it out for you. And Ableton's algorithm is pretty good at finding the tempo of electronic dance music and hip hop. It doesn't tend to do so well with rock of the 1970s because that was being played by people with no click track, and sometimes the drum hits are not as consistently loud compared to everything else as they would be in electronic music or dance music or pop or rap. So we're going to need to give it some help. And what I'm actually going to do first is remove all of the warp markers because it is easier for me to just place all of them by hand. The next thing I'm going to do is tell Live to follow the tempo of this song. So it's always going to play back at its original tempo. Let's take a listen. So the first thing we're going to need to do is tell Ableton, okay, you're guessing where bar 1, beat 1 is, and you're a little early. So I'm going to place a marker where the first guitar strum really starts. Going to get rid of that warp marker. It's better. 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so I hear there's a really obvious downbeat right there. So I'm just going to place that on bar 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then bar 5 is right there, bar 4 is right there. It's not necessary to put a warp marker at the beginning of every measure, but it doesn't hurt. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low. And it's interesting, the band speeds up pretty noticeably as soon as the drums kick in, which is not unusual. So now instead of the downbeats falling slightly behind the grid lines, they're now falling slightly in front of them. At this point, with the drums in there, I could almost do this by eye without even really listening.
I leaned back on my radio. Some cat was laying down some rock and roll, not a soul, he said.
Now, there might be situations where it's not totally clear where the downbeats are, in which case, instead of looking for beat 1, you might look for beats 2 and 4. And in rock, beats 2 and 4 pretty much always have snare drums on them. So in this measure, right, that's a beat 2, that's a snare drum. Rock and roll, there's another snare drum. And the snare drums, especially in rock, are often these very big transients that are really easy to spot. So if you're having trouble hearing or seeing the downbeats, you can always place those snare drum backbeats as well.
Then the loud sound, it seemed to fade. Came back like a slow voice on a wave of fade. That wasn't no DJ, that was hazy cosmic jive.
2, 3, 4, 1. Those are obvious.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children use it, let the children use it. They'll
All right, so that's enough for now. You can certainly tell live. All right, so it has calculated that the tempo right here, for example, is 97.67 beats per minute. And you could just tell it, look, that's the tempo. Just warp 97.67 beats per minute from here. The problem is the tempo doesn't stay at 97. The tempo doesn't stay at that exact value for the rest of the song. These guys speed up and slow down subtly. So in a performance like this, it was played by humans, you really do have to go through the whole song a measure at a time and place those warp markers yourself. It won't be that hard, but there's not really a good shortcut. Anyway, let's imagine that we have now warped the whole song out. I find it helpful at this point to go through and label the song sections. So here we've got the intro. There's verse 1, so I'm just going to split the clips. I'm going to call this intro. I'm going to call this verse 1.
Then the loud sound.
You could say, okay, this is verse 1, part A. Let's make that the number 1. And you could say that this is verse 1B.
That was no DJ, that was hazy cosmic jive.
Then we got this break.
There's a starman waiting.
And I like to color code these things. I have a color coding scheme that I use. So yellow for the intro and blue for the verses. I like to do orange for breaks. I like to do green for choruses. These colors don't symbolize anything in particular. Just a convention that I fell into. So anyway, let's say that we've now warped out the entire song. It's all aligned to the grid. Now what we can do is bring in the acapella, put that on another track, and get that lined up as well. Now, this is going to be harder. We don't have the snare drums to work with. We don't have the kick drums. We don't have anything. We don't have guitar strums. All we have are the words. And the words, because this is a David Bowie song, do not fall evenly on the beat. So what we're going to need to do is just really place them by hand, using the original song as a reference. So for example, in the intro, we've got this.
Hey, no, no.
And then here. So we need to find where those are. So I'm just going to loop that section. Let's get all these warp markers out of here. They're not helping us. Underneath this. Pretty good. All right, great. And let's do the same thing for the other. Much better. Now let's do the first bar of the verse.
Didn't know what time it was. 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 Lights were low. Oh, oh. 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 I leaned back on my. 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 I leaned back on my radio. Oh, oh, radio. Oh, oh, radio.
You get the idea. It's a little bit tedious, but like I said, there's not really a shortcut, especially for acapellas. The beautiful thing is that once you've done it, you can take out the original song and know that the acapella is going to follow the beat. So if I turn the metronome on,
Hey, no, no.
right?
Didn't know what time it was. The lights were low. Oh, oh.
And if I were to bring in some programmed drums or some MIDI samples, anything. Anything that's going to align to the grid, the acapella will stay perfectly aligned with it. So that's the beautiful thing. Now, if I want to give this stem to somebody to remix it, there's a couple more things I want to do. Right now, we've got the tempo following the performance, but I don't actually want the tempo to be unsteady. I want it to be steady. So I want to be able to say, okay, the tempo is exactly, say, 100 beats per minute. And so if you set your session tempo to 100 beats per minute and bring in this acapella, everything will line up. So I'm going to tell Live, okay, please unfollow the tempo automation that you're reading from my warp markers that I placed. In fact, please just, please unfollow it. And I actually want to completely delete all this automation. And now I can have the tempo be whatever I want. So if I want to hear the song at 120, here's how it sounds at 120. Right, too fast. I do want it to be somewhat close to the actual performed tempo. The intro here is like 94. In verse 1, it's more like 98, 99. I'm just going to say 100.
Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low.
Yeah, pretty good.
I leaned back on my radio. Some cat was laying down some rock and roll. Lot of soul, he said. Didn't know what time.
Beautiful. So now with the original song muted, pretending that I have warped all of this out and not just the beginning of it, I can now just take my warped out acapella, export it, and I'm going to say, okay, I would like this to be an A file. I would like to call it David Bowie Starman acapella 100 beats per minute. And there we go. And I now have this audio file that I can give to students, give to collaborators, use myself later on. We're in good shape. So that is how you warp out an acapella. Thank you for watching.